Alabama's on the hunt for an offensive coordinator. We're going to talk about Ryan Grubb. Why not? We've talked about him for a month now, and he officially took the job to Washington. Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about possible replacements, a little bit of hoops. It's time for Sunday Rollback. Let's get this thing started. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Give us a big Roll Tide, and let's start this thing off the only way we know how, and that's to invite you to join us. Hey, everybody, I got the crew here with me. The catfish himself, Mr. Chad Anderson, at This Chad Is Real. And there's Big Elmo down there, a celebrity in our midst, Brett Elmore from WJLX, the towerless station, which has caught the ire of the entire country at Brett Elmore Show. What's up, guys? Hello, guys.
Hello, we were on mute. We had to get
we were on mute. I'm sorry. Yeah. Roll Tide to Chad and Mick.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of like smacking and chomping. You know, you try to do a solid open, and it's like ruffling papers, like Rush Limbaugh used to do. Like, all right. Well, anyway, I gave you both a fantastic introduction. I'm broadcaster Mick on the socials. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're good. Me probably a little better than Brett, although he is a celebrity now. So I see I can't scroll through Twitter. Brett, I think, has got more stories lately than Ryan Grubb does at the moment. Like he's all over the place. Yeah. You made Barstool Sports. I mean, you're on CNN, New York Times right now, Barstool. So yeah, look at you. We'll need an autograph soon.
It's all the publicity. Famous in a small town for a bad reason.
You're not as famous in a small town anymore. You're famous you're in New York and CNN and Fox and Barstool and
the BBC. I got a request for an interview this morning from New Zealand or somewhere. It's crazy.
Hello now, sir.
Oh, why did you tell me? Hey, well,
how do you know? Yeah, well, hopefully they'll get to the bottom of this mystery. I think we kind of are doing that ourselves, which has been kind of fun. We're not only broadcasters, but we're investigative journalists at the same time.
That's right. That's right. I had the New York Times. They're in town, and they'll be here for a couple of days shadowing me and meeting folks and talking, and that's been fun.
Yeah. Well, take them to the Pie Factory because that's where you took me when I was in.
I was going to take them to the booby trap, but I decided I would be good.
That's more where you take cat. You want to take catfish. It's called Wesley's Booby Trap.
I'm sorry. Wesley's Booby Trap, world famous place next to the world famous Green Top on the county line. When all this is said and done, and I'm rebuilt and I have free time, I'm going to get catfish and Mick. And we're going to go to. I'm going to show them Wesley's.
Yeah, that's great. I just want the Wesley's Booby Trap swag. You know.
Yeah.
Famously in between Walker County and is it Jefferson County?
Yeah, Jefferson County.
That's what I thought. Yeah, so Green Top there as well. So we can eat and then get entertained all in the same area. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, entertained. You'll be entertained. All right.
Yeah, entertained. Yeah.
Chad, you own a mortgage company. Just bring a bunch of ones for us.
Yeah. Because that's all you need to loan on houses. Just a bunch of singles. Yeah. That's it.
You can make it rain with those ones. Or as my buddy went in there and he was a little inebriated, he said, "I'm going to make it hell," and he'd just throw quarters or whatever. You know, we didn't last too long that night, and for some reason, $250 disappeared out of my ATM that night. From the ATM. When I woke up the next morning, I checked my banking account, and I was like, "Oh man, no way!"
Yeah, they got you. They're always trying. That's the booby trap. They're trying to get you into your ATM card. All right. Let's talk about this guy. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I am sick and tired of talking about Ryan Grubb. Okay. Oh, we tried to get him last year to come to Tuscaloosa. He turned the job down, right? This time he didn't even make it a month. And I'm wondering if he really took the job like 2 weeks ago and we've just been like hanging out waiting because, the last thing we needed was him to leave and cause a possible mass exodus again. But he's going to Seattle. He's taking Scott Huff, the offensive line coach, with him. And I don't mean this in a bad way, guys, but good riddance, man. Just so I don't have to say Ryan Grubb again. He looks like the kind of guy. Well, I'm not going to say that. You just go ahead. You guys.
I saw him at the booby trap. I think he's the kind of guy that would hang up at the booby trap right after going deer hunting.
He looks like the kind of guy that would kick you out of the booby trap for touching the talent.
You're right. He was the bouncer.
We're being mean. All right, you guys, give me your thoughts on Ryan Grubb.
Go ahead, Brett.
I'm tired of hearing his name too, and you're going to see a few more staff members go, but hey, we've got to implement. This is DeBoer's offense. This is DeBoer's team. We'll get a new coordinator in there. We'll make the hires and get through it. It's time to implement. Time to implement the offense and the defense. We're going to do that with whoever the offensive coordinator is. But yeah, good riddance. And I believe you're right, Mick. I think he had the job kind of when we first talked about it. But he waited out that transfer portal business.
And look, if that's the case, Catfish, then I guess I shouldn't be making fun of him. But part of this is I'm just so sick of hearing this guy's name.
Yeah, I know. Last year dealing with it, and people were kind of frustrated because it's like, why in the world would you turn down Nick Saban to stay at Washington with Kalen DeBoer? That was kind of everybody's reaction. Now this year you get Kalen DeBoer because Saban retires and this guy comes in and now he's leaving. But the only couple of things, and who knows, I just do wonder, is this situation, and I'm more saying this as a fan and hoping, is Ryan Grubb kind of like a Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator? Is Ryan Grubb the same as being Nick Saban's defensive coordinator, where the head coach always has a specialty, right? Like Lane Kiffin is the specialty at Ole Miss. Steve Sarkisian is the specialty at Texas. They are the offensive guys. Kirby Smart is the defensive guy at Georgia. How much does Glenn Schumann really contribute in those situations from a play calling perspective and a scheme perspective? And so, maybe it's not the worst. Maybe the world isn't ending just because of this, because if Kalen DeBoer is the guy, then Grubb is a nice compliment. But if DeBoer's the guy, just like Smart is the guy, Kiffin's the guy, Sarkisian's the guy,
right?
Then it's really not that big of a deal. And he's not a recruiter in the Southeast. So obviously I'm trying to spin it in a positive way here for Alabama. But those are the things that you do ask yourself, is that, hey, now if Kalen DeBoer was an all defensive guy, and then you got Ryan Grubb, who's this fantastic offensive mind, and he is really good. But then I would be worried, because it's like, oh, how do we fill this gap? But I did see one stat on Twitter earlier. It may have been the Bama Sidelines account. I know, Mick, you like them a lot.
I like those guys.
Yeah. So it was, I can't remember if it was them. If not, then shout out to them anyway, because they're just good. But the one season that Ryan Grubb was not on Kalen DeBoer's staff, I think it was when he was at Fresno State. Ryan Grubb had the offense 85th in the nation. And then they got better when DeBoer showed up. So again, that is an extremely small sample size. I'm trying to be a homer here, but we don't know that answer. And it may not be as big a deal as what some people make it out to be.
That's what I was saying about. I think this is DeBoer's offense anyway, so it may not be that big of a deal. Just get somebody else. Obviously, a coordinator is a big deal, offensive coordinator, but get someone else in there. I'm sure he has someone in mind already, and Bama will be just fine.
Yeah, a lot of people are, I guess, a little bit more concerned with the fact that Alabama's losing Scott Huff, the offensive line coach. And I guess, when you talk about this, guys, Alabama couldn't snap the ball last year, and they had so many breakdowns on the offensive line, all the sacks, that this was an area where you were excited about having Huff because he had just coached the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. So should Alabama fans be concerned about losing Scott Huff?
Well, I think anytime you lose somebody that comes from a national championship runner-up staff, I mean, it's not great. It's not ideal. I wouldn't want that no matter if they won the Joe Moore award or not, really. So I don't, I mean, it sucks. It does suck. But, at the same time, again, it's DeBoer, it's Alabama. You're probably not going to have to beg too many people to make that transition or move. And it's a spot I think Alabama will be fine. I mean, it sucks. But hey, if anything, Alabama did grab the #1 offensive lineman in the portal with Parker Brailsford. So you did get the best center in the country to come play for the Crimson Tide, and that'll hopefully cure the snap woes that Alabama had to live through with McLaughlin last year.
Yeah, I mean, but that's only part of the story, though, Kat. I mean, you're talking about an offensive line that just could not figure it out. Every time we thought they did, and they had a great game against Georgia, then there's an Auburn game or there's a Michigan game, So I think this is an area where, and it's not going to be this guy, obviously not going to be Coach Huff, but this is something that they've got to get right if Alabama is going to win a championship.
They do, but the line got better and better and better all year long. I know they sucked against Auburn.
And
Michigan's also an elite defense. So, I mean, that's not normal. Not that Alabama should settle for that, but that's just a really, really good defense. So, again, I get it, but I'm just not as worried about it because, again, I don't know. I just look at it and think the staff that was there and what they were doing with the O-line, and I don't know why there weren't changes at certain points, but I just think Alabama is going to be in a spot with this offense and what they bring in and the staff and everything. Again, I get it, but I don't know. For some reason, I'm just not worried. I don't know that I have a specific reason or answer for it, but they still got some talent and they progressed and got better from the Texas game to the end of the year. Had 1 or 2 bad games, but early in the year, it was woeful. Like Caden Proctor was a ghost man on the left tackle. It was Gumby. I mean, he was doing nothing. Yeah. He was like Roger Dorn, Olay over there at third base. Like, it was terrible. He was awful.
I love the Major League movie reference.
Yeah, and even he got better.
Give him the heater, Ricky.
Yeah, even he got better.
We wear shirts and sleeves in this league.
The California Penal League.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. And then to top it off, after we watched all those bad games and he started getting better, he hauls ass to Iowa and then tells everybody that basically they tampered with him.
Yeah.
On video wearing crimson at a game where everyone else is decked out in gold and black.
My bad, coach.
I don't know. I don't know that the wheels turn very fast with him. I mean,
I think that hamster's dead up there.
There's a happy meal.
He might. Well, I was going to say maybe he thinks Mexico's next to Israel, but I can't do that.
There's a happy meal missing a few French fries.
He's probably smart. He just didn't think on that one because
I know because that
you guys know 19. Somebody did say that yesterday.
Yeah, he's 19. He's not thinking about that kind of stuff. He's not just groomed for that. It's just hey. be careful when you talk to the media. They're still 19, 20-year-old kids. They're just not ready for that kind of stuff. But it's funny to pick on them.
But I'm with Chad. Alabama's, it's not going to be hard for them to hire someone at both roles, whatever they need to hire replacement wise. I mean, this is an attractive job for coaches around the country. So Bama will be fine, and Coach DeBoer will make a good hire. I'll be interested to see, though, kind of who he hires and where they come from.
Yeah, well, I've got a couple guys that we're going to talk about, but first let me remind you that we're brought to you in part by New Life Art. NewLifeArt.com. Use the promo code Bama Tailgate to get 15% off your regularly priced purchase, which could include Crimson Legacy, right? Or what is the new one, Brett? Legacy Continues? Is that
the Legacy Continues?
The Legacy Continues, right? Which has an ode to Coach Nick Saban, but they've got all kind of stuff there. They've got Nick Saban as his own print. They've got the Nick Saban where you can put the 4 Heisman winners in the same print as him, all the national championship moments, 4th and 31, which some people call Gravedigger. Chad called it basically a bad word, Auburn, about 10 times. So whatever you guys like, go to newlifeart.com.
Disaster in the pasture.
Yeah.
You guys are just jealous you're not as passionate, okay? That's all it is.
That was I don't care how much money Texas paid Isaiah Bond. I'm still happy that he won that game. All right. Here we go. Let's talk about 2 guys that I expect to be part of what Alabama will do from here. Now, this is what I'm hearing. I don't know that this is what's going to happen, okay? But Jamarcus Shepard and Nick Sheridan to be co-offensive coordinators. People are reporting that could happen. I mean, look, the whole defensive coaching staff seems to be like co-defensive coordinators.
I was about to say again.
Right. But what I'm hearing is that don't be surprised if it's not Nick Sheridan calling the plays, or, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's, where's the picture at? Oh, there it is. Or maybe it's, maybe it's Coach DeBoer that's kind of there going, hey, you know what? Like sometimes, offensive coaches do that as well. But let me tell you guys a little bit about Sheridan. Of course, his dad was Bill Sheridan, a huge, highly successful coach in the NFL. And then for Nick, tight ends coach at Washington, obviously at Alabama, right? Until now. When he was at Indiana, 2000 to 21, he was the offensive coordinator, did quarterbacks. Before that, he did tight ends, did quarterbacks before that there. He was there from 2017 to 21, and then he went to Washington. He was at Tennessee as a grad assistant, 2014 and 16. And before that, he was at South Florida as the passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. He did Western Kentucky, 12 and 11 as a passing game coordinator, quarterbacks, and then a grad assistant. And he was a quarterback at Michigan. And he was I think a walk-on, and eventually became QB1. So pretty cool track record there. But he's also someone that Grubb knows and trusts.
So, in other words, they're going to move these guys over. Shepard, he coaches the receivers, and right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then the tight ends are being coached by Sheridan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you could do that. I mean, obviously, there's a couple of guys that he knows, and make them co-offensive coordinators and see what happens. But I think ultimately, probably the play calling is going to come from DeBoer.
And that could be the case, Chad. I mean, it won't be the first time that a head coach has been very involved with play calling. I mean, think about Eli Drinkowitz at Missouri, although he didn't do it this past year, but he has been the play caller.
Just think how important DeBoer thinks his first year is, so he may pull out all the stops and call plays.
Well, here's the thing, though. You bring up Missouri. Their offensive coordinator, Kirby Moore, has been thrown out there as a target. This is just coming from Twitter and a few accounts. It's not the accounts that are saying that Lane Kiffin and Pete Carroll are interested in the job. This is actually something that has been kicked around a little bit. Apparently, Kirby Moore, I haven't dug into it a ton, but apparently Kirby Moore is someone who's connected with DeBoer. I want to say it was at Fresno State that they were connected. I don't think it was Indiana. I think it was Fresno. And so it's one of those that Kirby Moore did a great job with Missouri. And I believe it's Brady Cook, right? Was a quarterback for Missouri last year. Missouri had hell of a year, won 10 games, finished in the top 10, beat Ohio State, a depleted Ohio State with a third-string quarterback, beat Ohio State nonetheless. Had a good run in the SEC. So that is a name apparently that could at least draw some interest. And you also have to remember, I don't know if you saw this quote, because everything kind of broke late last night. You know, Mick was counting sheep. I was playing poker. Brett was chasing radio towers. Like, we're trying to keep up last night. But one thing that was said today, this was from Greg Byrne, said that when Kalen DeBoer was hired, that they talked about that they knew Ryan Grubb was going to get an opportunity to either be the head coach at the University of Washington, which means that he could end up never coming or coming and then leaving, or be presented with an NFL opportunity. And that DeBoer has always had a game plan for this. So we literally, think about this, guys, literally a month ago, okay? A month ago, Nick Saban retired, and everybody said Dan Lanning was in Tuscaloosa. That was the rumor, right?
Yeah,
that was the thing. And Greg Byrne was in Seattle the whole time, and nobody was in Tuscaloosa. Now here we are. The coordinator leaves, and everybody's already figured out all the answers. And it's, no matter what we think, Greg Byrne just always seems to be about 3 steps ahead of anything that happens. Who knows who will actually end up being named that? But just what happened a month ago, his comment today, a couple of other people who aren't currently on the staff connected to DeBoer. I'm just saying it may not be the simple, old-fashioned, stereotypical bump a guy up from inside the staff. They may truly try to go grab someone.
Yeah, interesting. And that's why I said the same thing. It's like the reports are that Sheridan, moves up with Jamarcus Shepard. But you're right. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, you go out there, you see what's available. We talked about this yesterday, and I'll get you in on the conversation. The world of college football has changed. It's changed so much. The fact that Chip Kelly would leave UCLA, and I know they probably wanted to get rid of him, but they couldn't because they couldn't buy him out or they didn't have any money or whatever. But the fact that he would leave a head coaching job to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State really signals to me that college football has some really huge issues right now with the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not very common that a head coach, especially at a big university like UCLA, takes basically a demotion and then it goes and to become an offensive coordinator at another school. But he's made his money. He's going to make, a couple $1 million as the OC at Ohio State. But you're right, Mick. He has something at Ohio State he doesn't have at UCLA. And it's sort of like if he was to come to Bama and do the same thing. He has the resources. He has the talent. He can compete for championships. And that's what he's going to do. And you're right. They were probably going to fire the guy anyway, wanted him gone. He probably did him a favor and took the job, But, he's going to have all the things that he really didn't have at UCLA.
Yeah, like good players, right? But Chad,
yeah.
I look at this, though, as I'm just concerned about the teams that aren't Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, Georgia. You know, that when UCLA's job is a stepping stone to be an offensive coordinator somewhere else, that to me, that's a canary in the coal mine, Brett, to use a Walker County term.
Yeah, it really is. It is. And, you know, what do you do about it? How do you control that? Do you make a super conference? You know, what do you do?
But even if you do, UCLA now, and I get it too, he's probably going to make around the same money when you talk about all the taxes he's not going to have to pay the state of California.
That's true.
You know, and a great example of that is what Shohei Ohtani did with his contract, where he back-ended everything so that he can move back to Japan, and then he's not going to pay that 40% state tax or whatever they roll with out in California. But he went from $2 million, $2 million, $2 million, $2 million, $2 million the whole time that he's there for the 10 years. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know, they just back a truck up to Japan.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah, it does show as well, though, just how much college football is going to change over the next few years, because you've got guys leaving and bailing, and it's become, you have great people like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Sark, Lanning, and even Lanning's probably the wrong answer, but these people were recruiting and doing well before all the NIL stuff, and it was truly a recruiting game. Now, okay, stuff goes on behind the scenes. Got it. Yeah, you can make those accusations all day long. But when you're a college football coach, your job was to not only coach, practice, scheme, keep a staff, game plan. You were also a public figure of the university. You were also someone who had to go and talk to boosters and give luncheon speeches and, you know, appearances and all these things, right? Like, as a college coach. On top of that, you had to recruit 24/7. You always were having to stay in front of kids, be available, stay in touch. Like, you're constantly selling all year long. You can't just go sign. Now it's completely changed. You can go sign. It's free agency for the most part. You're backdooring your way into how do we figure out and funnel money to these kids through NIL or through local businesses or sponsorships or dealerships or whatever you want to call it. And it's just made the job that much more annoying. Like, think about that. You have to do twice the work in the college world. In the NFL, you just go sign players. Now, some of that's recruiting, because if it comes down to like 3 teams, you're trying to convince them why your team is the one.
Right.
But it's a whole lot different compared to trying to recruit a kid out of high school for 2 straight years, and then a month before signing day, he decides to flip because somebody showed up with a Lamborghini. I mean, it's just a completely different world, and I don't know how college football is going to fix it, but it's been pretty obvious because coaches are annoyed with it. You got head coaches leaving to take coordinator positions in the NFL. You got head coaches now leaving, taking coordinator positions inside of college football, just at a bigger school with a bigger brand that spent $13 million on NIL, and Chip Kelly took a $4 million pay cut to do that. Now, that's gross. I get it, the taxes and whatever, but he still lost money on that deal. But that's how much Chip Kelly hated UCLA and what they provided and the facilities and everything and the NIL and trying to compete. So they're going to have to figure something out, because it's trending in a very, very bad direction.
Well, the thing is, too, and we've talked about the NIL business. Look how much it has changed from the beginning, the very beginning, the infancy of the NIL, to where it is today, where, you would read deals where, oh, so-and-so signed a deal with X company to promote their, fried chicken, right. And then it goes to Lamborghinis, whoa, the transition, just the way everything has expanded already. is amazing to me. And it's the NIL, something has to give. And Chad's absolutely right. You have coaches that's dipping out because they're sick and tired of dealing with it. But not only is the coaches tired of it, but it's seeping down to the fans. The fans are tired of it because it's really affecting the game of college football. So, the NIL money, that something has to be fixed there. College football is turning into a semi-pro league. And if you want it to be that way, fine. But you're going to have to make everything clear. But this is not the college football I know. And by the way, my segment is brought to you by the Pie Factory, where I got my NIL deal.
When I listen to your radio stations, I hear a lot of Pie Factory on there. They make their sauces fresh every day. But I will tell you this, though. I am a big fan of fried chicken, even though I'm on a diet right now. I could probably eat fried chicken. My grandmother used to make fried chicken livers, which you guys probably don't like. And
Nope.
no, and
I've had livers,
yeah, but I mean, I can still walk in and smell like the fried chicken, knowing that it was going to include mashed potatoes and creamed peas somewhere along the line.
Mick was trying to replace his pickled liver. Is what he was
But no, you know what I'm talking about. At the beginning of the NIL, it was that. It was they were getting just a little bit of money, and they'd be like, "Hey, don't forget this. I'm sponsored by so and so." But now it's, wow, I've got a Lamborghini in my driveway. That's really cool. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. I still say this, and I know a lot of you guys have gotten to the comment section, and you kind of what we're talking about. It's the NIL was supposed to be Bryce Young. Hey, I go out there, I prove myself on the football field. I'm on a Dr. Pepper commercial. I'm driving Hyundais. I'm in the commercial at the Heisman House, and he did everything right. He waited his turn. He studied. He built his name and earned the NIL. Now, it wasn't meant to be Caleb Downs decides he's going to Ohio State because they're going to zip him $1 million. It wasn't meant to, hey, leave Alabama and come over here and we're going to hook you up. No, it's supposed to be like Caleb Downs stays at Alabama and he's earned this because of his play, and unfortunately the entire system is hijacked right now. And it's really going to ruin the game because now a school like UCLA, they don't have the facilities. They don't have the NIL. And the fact that their head coach, who I know has been hard to get along with for some people in his career. I mean, obviously why things didn't work out with the Eagles and all that, but he's still an offensive genius. He's like, hey, I'm just going to go be an offensive coordinator. And then now you go find a new head coach, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out, but scary at the same time because there's just no rules, and unless you're Tennessee, and for some reason the NCAA has Tennessee in their sights. It's like everybody else is just doing whatever they want, but for some reason Tennessee is just
it's the orange. They just don't like the color orange.
It's easy for the NCAA to spot. I think that color. All right, guys, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk some basketball. Alabama basketball yesterday beat LSU down in Baton Rouge 109-92. Chad, I'm going to start with you on this because I know basketball. There was a time when Alabama struggled to score half of that. There were entire seasons where if Alabama scored 100 points in a game, that was phenomenal. And it was normally against, the inferior competition that you play at the beginning of the season. How about these guys? And I know they don't play any defense. They try, but they don't. Still scoring 109 points and being over 100 points again.
Yeah, I think yesterday they shot 43 pointers. If you think about that, that's insane to be able to get 43 pointers off
44.
in a game. Was it 44? Was that the final? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see that. I just remember seeing the 40 and I thought that's where they ended. So thank you.
Yeah.
At one point in the game, I don't know how many they finished making. I didn't look at the stat line, but at one point in the game, they had made 9 out of their first 21.
Nice.
And it's just crazy what this team can do and how dangerous they can be when they shoot well and when they play great in transition and they continue to push and they find the open guy. This is the 7th time, I believe, that Alabama has scored 100 or more this year.
Yeah.
And there was one game where they ended on 99. So they were a point away from having 8 where they scored 100, which is a school record. It's some other kind of record that I've already forgotten. But the one thing that does frighten me about this team, Alabama is killing the teams they're supposed to kill. I mean, they are. They're beating them, and they're beating them easily. They've gone on the road a couple of times, and they've struggled against really, really good teams with Tennessee and Auburn in the conference. Out of conference, they went on the road or to quasi-neutral sites. You can't really call it that because when you play Arizona and Phoenix, that's not really a neutral site per se. But they played with Purdue down to the wire. Purdue's the number 2 team in the country. They played with Arizona down to the final 5 to 8 minutes, somewhere in there. Arizona's a top 10 team. They went on a true road game against Creighton, hung in there for a long time. And that was also before the new year when they hadn't quite figured some things out. So they're kind of like the offensive line when you talk about their defense. They've gotten better. It's far from what it needs to be if you're going to be a tournament team. And the problem with last year's team was a crazy good team. That was my favorite team.
Yeah.
But this year's team can be really, really good. The only problem is when you get into March and you're living and dying by a 3-point shot. Now, this team can make it, but if you can't play defense and you have all it takes is one cold game, one average game, and then the other team plays good defense, they do their thing on offense, and you're kind of screwed. You get behind the 8 ball and you're struggling. You can't make it up. You can't get a shot to fall. And so that's where like last year's team and previous teams, like when Herb Jones was a lockdown defender and nobody was scoring. And last year, Alabama had 2 legit big guys with Bediako and Clowney. And then, of course, you had Brandon Miller. That's the problem I see with this team is the big players down low in the front court. They just don't have yet that same defensive type ability or effort. And Nate Oates, after the Auburn game, he called out Mark Sears, who's the leading scorer. He said, if we're going to be this, or if we're going to want to be as successful as previous teams here, we've got to get Mark Sears to play better defense. And maybe the effort's there, but the results aren't. He's got to play better defense. And the front court is just so young. And I'm really frustrated with Charles Bediako because he shouldn't have gone pro. I didn't feel like he was going to get drafted, and he didn't. And we could really use a 7-foot presence underneath the basket right now.
Yeah.
But, there's still guys in there who are trying and they're learning and they're evolving. But we're about 30-ish days from the SEC tournament. So they're going to have to figure it out on defense because it's fun to win games like this, but it's not a sustained Final Four run unless you just get crazy hot on offense for a 3 or 4 week stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. Still in first, Brett.
I mean, Chad's right on just about every point. Alabama beat LSU just about in every form statistically in the ball game yesterday. And yeah, you hear the term live and die by behind the arc. If you're hot, you're hot. If you're not, you're not. And there's a good Jerry Reed story about Mick. I'll save that for later. But 41% from behind the arc, and they hit 18 of 44. 88% from the free throw line. They out rebounded LSU 45-34. And forced 12 turnovers too. And also, I like how they spread the wealth around. I love that. You had five players at double figures. Wrightsell had 21, Sears had 23, Griffin had 16, Estrada 15, and then Pringle had 17. So they were spreading the ball around nicely, played a great game. But Chad's right. I mean, they may have some trouble with March Madness. I don't know. I do know that they're back in action, and I think they're at home against A&M.
But then are they on the road next weekend?
They're off.
You got it.
Schedule. They got Texas A&M 11 a.m. on Saturday. They're off the middle of the week. But look at the schedule. You only got a couple more road games, right? At Kentucky, that's a tough one. At Ole Miss, that's a tough one to play there. Pretty good. And at Florida.
I'll say this, that Bama should win the next two at home. Probably with not much of a problem. Those two teams are pretty good, but they're not great teams. They're good. Florida could just get hot. But Bama should win those. Bama wins a lot at home. So you could be 11-2 in the conference. It's the next four after that. That's the really tough stretch. Now, on the flip side, Kentucky lost yesterday at home to Gonzaga, and that was their third straight loss at home. So you start to wonder about Calipari, because Kentucky fans don't tolerate losing 3 straight in Rupp. You go to Ole Miss. That's one of those games, Mick. You always made fun of me during football season about how I talk about things being annoying. That one's annoying. Okay, that's just an annoying game. You're better than them. They're not as great as their record shows, but it just sucks. You don't want to go there and do that game. Tennessee at home will be an absolute fight.
Big game.
That will be a war. That could be for the conference. At Florida will be difficult going on the road there. They destroyed Auburn yesterday. And then Arkansas at home. I hate to say anything's a gimme, but that one, Arkansas is pretty bad this year. So
Arkansas got some stuff going on internally, from what I understand, that I'm not going to talk about here, but that program's in a lot of trouble. Yeah.
Well, I just look at it, and I think Bama gets by the next two. And so they're 11-2 in the conference, but that 4-game stretch is rough. It's really tough. And I think bracketology has them as the first 3 seed, and nobody talks about Alabama, and they have them as the first 3 seed, which means they're only 1 spot away from being the last 2 seed. And think about that. Like, nobody's talked about Alabama basketball all year long at a national level, and they're 1 spot away from being on the 2 line. So,
you have South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee all with 1 conference loss, and you're right, Chad. That Tennessee game looms really, really big coming up as we hit the home stretch, the regular season, and into madness tournament time.
Yeah, two losses, but you're right.
Yeah,
log jam at the top. Did you guys catch the commentators? I had to turn Chris Stewart and Brian Pasick on.
Oh, you mean like how bad they were?
It was awful. I'm so sick of ESPN. What a damn joke with these guys. Like, 1 minute you get a great crew, and then then sometimes it's like, it really sounds like a college radio broadcast.
Yeah.
On
it's
TV.
Bad. It was bad. I know what you mean. I didn't go to the effort I should have of turning Chris and Brian on, but when I was watching yesterday, it was pretty painful to listen to it. You try to mentally block it out and just watch, but it's bad.
It's like it's like when you were a kid and you didn't like those chicken livers, and you had to just like hold your nose when you ate them. I didn't mind them. I'm wondering who are the people that like that, because there's certain games now that you turn on, and within 2 minutes, you're like, I can't take another minute of this. It's like literally, you feel like you're listening to some kind of a class project calling sports. And I know that, somebody might get mad or upset or whatever. It doesn't matter. It was terrible. If it's so bad that you got to turn it off, then ESPN's just got to do a better job. And I know a lot of you on here are sick of ESPN outside of the play-by-play, but even the play-by-play, they mess up now.
Yeah. They're not good. They're cheesy. They're corny. They also can tell, or I could tell, it feels like, just because it used to be in broadcasting, you know, Mick, I'm sure you pick up on this. It's like everybody's trying to come up with their shtick, you know, or their line, or they're going to all of a sudden be Keith Jackson, you know, or Jim Nance.
Hello, Nelly.
Yeah, they do. They come up with these like just stupid sayings, or they're trying. I don't know. It's always bothered me with broadcasting, especially formal broadcasts like that, because I feel like so many times the announcers are more uptight and trying to say what they think is cool or what you want. Like, they're not just themselves. And I think that's what people like, is when you're just more yourself. And maybe that rubs some the wrong way, but I'm not saying be me with the Iron Bowl. Like, that probably wouldn't go over well, but you know, just you can be a little more just like loose, you know, just call the game. Just let it go. Call the game and have some fun, but don't like force all these things with it. Just
no, Mick, did the play-by-play person, when they dunked the ball, did they say boom shakalaka?
Boom goes the dynamite.
Boom goes the dynamite. What is your favorite phrase? Boom shakalaka, or down goes the dynamite, or boom goes the dynamite, or whatever. I mean, there's all these sayings, but yeah, I mean, but do you think that they, I don't know, did they have enough people? They own sports now. I mean, they have for a long time. But do they have enough talent to go around for everything they do? I was watching this past weekend, and we didn't have any football on or anything, and I'm watching, and we have on ESPN like pickleball tournaments, and I'm like, who in the hell's calling a pickleball tournament? You know,
well, I wish these guys would have called it.
Yeah. Well, but two things. I understand what Brett's saying there, but there's two things to that. One, it's about what product is being presented. If it's a pickleball tournament, whatever, I don't care. It's almost like you need the goofy announcers,
right?
Like, that's what it's supposed to be. Okay. The other thing too, I don't care how depleted the talent pool is. The game was on ESPN, right? Or ESPN 2?
No, it was ESPN.
My balloons.
There you go.
It was right. Yeah, it was ESPN. You don't put an SEC basketball game with the #1 team in the conference on television and give us the D+ broadcast crew. Like,
true.
That's the problem. It's not like it was the SEC network. This was ESPN.
No, look, they're not picking broadcasters based on broadcasting. That's the problem.
Right.
Okay. And that's as far as I'm going to take it, but they're not picking them based on broadcasting.
Right.
And it was they just took two people out of class, threw them together for a class project, and those two are sitting there doing the game. They could have been sitting in some remote place doing the game, and it wouldn't have been any worse. But when you got to turn it off because it's so bad, and it's happened a few times lately, not just on ESPN, but some other places too. And I know what's going on, but it's just a shame, because as a customer, just as a fan, we deserve a good product, you know? So you guys keep doing that, and we'll just keep turning on Chris Stewart and Brian Passing, who, by the way, did a fantastic job. And it's funny, their engineer even gets on and like reads, coming out of break. And it sounds like the engineer's reading, which makes me laugh, being a long-time radio guy, you know. Like, hey, let's have Tom on. Why not, you know?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. It's frustrating all around. I agree with you on that. And, you know, they're still doing some games where people are like at home. It's more college baseball when they do that.
Right.
But still, like, between football, basketball, and baseball, those three sports, and being on ESPN, how are you still doing broadcasts from home?
Yeah.
Like, well, and Mick will attest to it. There's nothing like being, you know, at the stadium where you get that feel, and you have that crowd noise, and you feel the crowd, and you describing the action, compared to sitting here watching the game on a screen and calling it from your office, which I've done, and Mick's I'm sure has done in the past. You know, it's totally different. You get a totally different vibe from that. You don't. It doesn't really do it justice. And that's just a cheap way out of doing things.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. All right, guys. Final thing to talk about is Friday was Ryan Williams' birthday. And I've become a huge Ryan Williams fan. I mean, I really feel like Coach DeBoer getting him to recommit to Alabama and sign was such a huge part of the success that he's had. And Coach DeBoer always seems to be able to weather storms. And in that first month, which we're closing in on this week, he's done that. But how about this guy being 16 until Friday? Now he's 17. And coming to Alabama as the two-time Mr. Football, and with a little help from Brett's favorite guy, Roll Tide Willie.
Yeah, it's Blitz Bama Blitz, right?
Yeah. I need to send that guy some shoes. Nice guy. But yeah, happy birthday to him. It's just amazing that this, to me, and we talked about it in a previous show. It's just amazing to me. This kid's going to be 17 and at the university, but happy birthday to him. He's a big get. DeBoer's first big fish, big catfish, and I'm sure it's special for him. He was going to sign on his birthday, but went on ahead and got it done and over with, and happy birthday.
Yeah, big 17. What were you doing, Catfish, when you were 17? Were you two-time Mr. Alabama football and saving the coach's tenure before it really ever got started?
What was I doing? 17th birthday. That would have been Mick. That would have only been 2002. So I was probably holding the rope with Coach Fran around that time. That's what we were doing. Like probably doing the mental toughness, extra effort around my birthday because my birthday is actually next week. So yeah, it was right after signing day. So yeah, I don't remember 2002. I remember my years on the calendar by Alabama's record and head coaches. So that's really horrible. either that or how the Cubs did that year, one or the other. That's always the way I kept up with it. But no, it's cool. Yeah, look at him, Roll Tide Willie with Portnoy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That guy, it's funny. He's become like a real life mascot. You know, like, but everybody loves him. I've never met him.
Yeah.
But I've just seen him on socials and whatnot. But everybody loves him. You know, he's been with the baseball team, the basketball team, football, showing up with recruits, getting tours of the stadium. Just a guy that everybody's kind of gotten drawn to. But yeah, he's a real life mascot, it feels like.
I think he needs to come on the Sunday rollback one day.
I would love to have him on.
Okay, can we make that happen? I mean,
I know I think he's got a handler too that kind of helps him, kind of get from one place to the other. But I don't know. I anything that Portnoy does seems to just like blow up, right? And I feel like Portnoy found Roll Tide Willie. Am I right about that, Chad?
No. Roll Tide Willie had his own thing going.
Yeah,
really. He had TikTok, picked up
right?
Steam, Twitter, maybe TikTok. I saw it on Twitter, but he had picked up some steam on Twitter, I think it was. Again, it could be TikTok, but that's just where I saw him. But then, yes, Portnoy did have him on the Barstool show in Tuscaloosa when they were there for the Texas game. And that, of course, drew more attention to it on a much larger scale. And then it kind of just kept taking off from there. But Portnoy has a soft spot for him because Willie has been, I guess, trying to like finish his house or rebuild his house or renovate it or something. And Portnoy, this quick story is Portnoy won $1 million betting on Michigan to beat Bama in the Rose Bowl. And so he said, "Hey, Willie, I'm going to give you the $30,000 that it takes to finish your house. Like, I just won $1 million. I'm giving you 30."
That's cool.
But the story from Portnoy is that Willie wouldn't take it and said, "No, I don't take charity." And so that's why Portnoy, if you go to Barstool's site, they actually have a t-shirt and it's Roll Tide Willie's face smoking a cigarette on the front. and on the back it just says brick by brick, like or something. But what Portnoy did is he said, look, if you won't take my money, we're going to make a t-shirt, we're going to sell it, and we're going to give you 100% of the proceeds, and then you can build your house or finish your house that way.
Nice.
So it's been a pretty cool little connection with those two. But yeah, it's been funny.
Oh, the feel-good story of the day.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Talking about feel-good stories, though, Chad, why don't you jump on and tell everyone about catfish.com? No, I'm just kidding. ChadwickAnderson.com.
Yeah, we said this the other day. I think Catfish Mortgage probably be the worst mortgage name ever. I mean, you might as well call yourself the bait and switch shop. You know, I mean, it's the most awful mortgage name you could come up with. Let's stick to ChadwickAnderson.com instead. And if you scan the QR code, we'll hook you up with some credits and whatnot at closing and so forth. But oh, you guys have been great. Had people reaching out. We've actually closed closed one customer, got another one in process from the channel. And so again, like you guys see me on here, I'm the same way off the camera. Like if you want questions answered, like we can just chat. I can give you advice, scenarios, whatever you want to do. I'll be glad to do it. But the housing market has picked up quite a bit. It's been extremely busy, completely blessed for the last 6 weeks since the new year. So if you want to reach out, that's my personal cell and email right there. And I'll always be the one to respond to you.
That's sort of like having a law firm of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
His nickname's Catfish really because his dad was at a casino, Brett. Did I tell you this story, Brett?
You did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you told me this story's great.
Yeah, so his dad just kept calling everybody Catfish. What do you got going on, Brett? WJLX.
Everybody knows what I've got going on.
Good luck finding that antenna.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. And hopefully by next Sunday we'll be back on the air. I hope.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us on Sunday Rollback, guys. Make sure that you get in the comment section, like and follow, give us a thumbs up. Love the conversation and love having you guys here hanging out. Always fun on Sunday when we get together and talk about Alabama. And as the offensive coordinator position is filled, the other coaching spots, we'll be right here to tell you all about it. So make sure you stick around on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. And by the way, we're closing in on 5,000 subscribers. So thank you guys. Let's get there. We're like less than 200 away. Share with your friends. Roll Tide, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.